was not just a hot entertainer. He was not just a prolific performer. He was a historic figure. He changed music as we know it. I remember when I used to speak sometime at his show, he would always smile when I would say there were 4 B's in music: Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, and Brown. But the truth is that James Brown impacted music just like they did, because he literally changed the beat to a 1-3 from a 2-4. He taught the world to be on the 1. That's why he's still the man, because every time I hear a hip-hop record on the 1, that's James Brown. He's still the man. Every time I see an artist sing and get the dancing and get the movement and get those of us to begin to be demonstrative on the 1, that's James Brown. He's still the man. Every time I see someone slide across the stage, someone go down in a split, someone come up with supreme and superior showmanship, that's James Brown. He's still the man. Every time an artist goes in a studio and sings for a cause bigger than themselves, that's James Brown. He's still the man. Every time we use our art and our music to lift those that are down at the bottom, to look toward the top and dream for a better day, I know that James Brown is still the man. Every time I see a kid, black, white, Asian, Latino, come from nothing and believe they can go somewhere and beat the odds, I know that's James Brown. He's still the man. If you don't believe, he's still the man. He's still the man. James Brown.
Theme for our show tonight is the mindset of a champion on and off the field. And Lionel Hollins truly represents what it means to be a champion on and off the field, because in 76-77 season, he was a part of the Portland Trail Blazers team that defeated one of the great teams to ever be assembled in the NBA, the Philadelphia 76ers, which featured Dr. J, George McGinnis, Billy Cunningham, a young Darryl Dawkins, Kobe Bryant's father, Jelly Bean Bryant, World B. Free. The team was stacked. And this brother would take that ball from Bill Walton and head the other way quicker than a New York minute. And it's exciting to know that we have been able to be friends for quite some time now. He was the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies up until last season, and under his leadership, he guided that team as far as that franchise has ever went in their 13-year history as a professional basketball franchise. And the thing that was so amazing about this brother is his poise and his demeanor. It's 2 things that I think about when I think about Lionel Hollins: poise, discipline, actually 3 things, and persistence. He's also a very patient man, but make no mistake about it, he will get in the trenches when necessary. Think about it for a minute. He coached Zach Randolph, Tony Allen, and some other cats who were, very modern in their thinking, and he was able to get these young men to believe in his system. And we do have him on the line right now. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Coach Lionel Hollins. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good, Bobby. How you doing?
If I was doing any better, I'd have to take something for it.
I hear you.
I was just explaining to my audience how we met in Manchester, Tennessee. It'll be 2 years ago this summer. And I shared with them a little of your background as a basketball player. But what I'd like to do is give them a broader view of who you are as a man. You grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, under some very challenging circumstances, which I get into great detail in my book, Real Men Don't Play. But in the few minutes that I have you on the show tonight, I want to talk about the mindset of a champion, because you're one of the very few people who's had that experience. Millions of people play the game of basketball. All of us wanted to play at the professional level. You actually accomplished that. Can you kind of walk us through the mentality of a champion?
Well, first of all, to get where I am now, I wasn't thinking that. When I was growing up, I was just trying to survive like everybody else. But I did have a passion for sports, and I had a single-mindedness, and I was enough of a loner that I didn't need anybody to walk with me when I walked. So, I was fortunate to have some of those traits instilled in me by God, because, that's half the battle as you're going through a tough environment and, not very much money, and you don't have all the things that a lot of other people have. You can tend to become focused on things and not what your goals and aspirations are, and you just want to have for the sake of having. But me, I was all about sports. I had friends that were in some gangs, which wasn't that prevalent back then, but there were some. I had friends who were selling drugs. I had friends who were robbing people and, breaking in houses and doing all kinds of things. But I didn't want to go to jail, first of all. Secondly, I didn't want to face my grandmother while I was in jail. And I had, for me, the goals were to just get out of the rut that we were in and try to make a new ending. And I was fortunate to be able to stay focused and stay out of trouble and reach some of my goals.
Who were some of the men and women in your life that shaped your worldview and gave you enough time to fashion a life of your own?
Well, first of all, it would be my grandmother. She was my mother, my father, my grandmother, my grandfather. She was a confidant. She didn't mince words. She was very tough and harsh. And I think that's where I get my persona from, is that she didn't make any excuses. She didn't take any excuses. She used to say, we're poor, but it don't mean you have to be dirty and nasty. It don't mean you have to steal. And she instilled that in me, and she also instilled, the no excuses. And the best thing that she gave me a critical thinking mind. She also always used to say, God gave you a brain, use it. You don't have to have somebody else think for you or tell you what to do. You learn how to figure things out for yourself, and you do for yourself. And I think it's kept me out of a lot of trouble that way, because I wasn't a follower. And by not being a follower, I stayed out of a lot of trouble, because, you could just get caught in situations when you are running with your boys and they're doing things and you don't really know what is going down, and they're selling you that things are going to be good. And I'm not saying that I was a saint coming up, but, those traits steered me clear of a lot of things. And then, I had my first basketball coach, James Cusley, who was also a teacher at the school, and he's the one that introduced me to basketball. And I had Mr. James Evans, who took over from Mr. Cusley and coached me, and he was a principal at a different school, and they actually named the school after me, got into the school board. And the importance of staying out of trouble, the importance of going to school. And they weren't just talking that. When they see you, they grab you by the shirt collar and pull you on down the hallway with them. And, and tell you they're going to whoop your butt and call your mother and your grandmother and tell them that, they're going to get them to whoop your butt as well. And those three gentlemen the two gentlemen, my grandmother, were probably the most influential. There was one other guy who I played baseball for. His name was Lonnie Carter. And they just instilled a work ethic and an understanding of how to do things the right way on the athletic field, which carried over into my personal life as well. And so they were very instrumental in shaping me as men. And I feel like it's my responsibility as a coach to do the same thing to the young man that I'm in charge of and that I've been blessed to coach and have in my life. So it's always important that, I teach them about life more than I teach them about basketball, because their talent in basketball is there, but the life skills may not quite be there, and they need somebody to instruct them in that area, and somebody that's strong, and somebody that's black, and somebody that's male. So that's why, I came up the way I was, and about a year or two ago, I went back to Vegas, and they honored me, and Mr. Evans was there. When I coached in the minor leagues in Vegas, Mr. Evans would come to practice, and he was as proud of me as if I were his child. And I wasn't the only one that came out of his system that succeeded. And not everybody made professional basketball, but there's a lot of young men that he saved from a life of crime and drugs and incarceration.
At what point in your development did you even consider the fact that you might be an elite athlete?
Well, I was always really good. I mean, I was outstanding as a baseball player and as a football player when I was young. And basketball was like secondary. It wasn't until I actually got to high school that basketball became a real focus of I was a baseball player first. And I think it came as I was about to go to college, and not go to college, but I was about to graduate from high school. And all of these coaches were writing and coming to visit and talking to me, and I didn't understand it. I wasn't around when my uncles were in high school and about to go off to college, and I don't think recruiting was that intense at that time, and it's even more intense now. And so I didn't really have an understanding, and I wasn't going to go to college. I was just going to get a job. And my high school basketball coach called me into his office, and he says, you're a very good basketball player. He says, you got a chance to make a life doing this. I didn't know that. I wasn't playing for all that. I just loved to play sports. And he said, there's a coach 2 hours up the road that's going to offer you a scholarship. You've turned everybody down. You won't even talk to half the coaches. And now school's about to start, and you're still sitting here. He said, this guy is going to give you a full-ride scholarship to go to a junior college. And he says, I'm telling you, go up there and do 2 years. And if you don't like it, you can come back to Vegas and get a job and move on in that direction. He said, but if you stay here and just get a job, you'll regret for the rest of your life not going to college. And so that was kind of sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. I went there. I was All-American, won everything, recruited by everybody in America. And I went to 4-year school, which was Arizona State. And I wound up being the 6th player taken in the NBA draft. And even then, when I got drafted, I went there worried about making the team, could I compete and show them that I was worthy of being drafted that high. So, I don't know if I ever, as a youth, knew how good I was. I knew I had a lot of success, but, it was only in Vegas. And, I used to read magazines about kids all around the country, so I knew there was a whole other world of kids playing basketball. But ultimately, I came to understand how good I was and that I can compete against anybody. And it started in junior college, playing kids from New York, playing kids from L.A. and Texas, and having great success against those kids. And then when I got recruited, I was recruited by everybody. At that point, I knew that I was pretty good. In many of our conversations, I've asked you about that critical point at the end. I think it was your junior year when you actually got an offer to turn pro after your junior year, and you couldn't believe that they were going to actually draft you as high they were after your junior year.
What?
Back then, that you had the ABA and the NBA. And the ABA was the Utah Stars drafted me after my junior year. And my coach actually took me to talk to Jerry Colangelo, who was the general manager of the Phoenix Suns at the time. He later on became the owner. But at that time, he was the general manager. And he sat down and talked to me and he explained what the league was about. He explained the financial difficulties that they were having and the possibility that there would be a merger later on. And also telling me and letting me know that I wasn't quite ready physically, mentally, socially to take on the responsibility of being in a man's league. And I respect the advice I got because I know there's a lot of people that are getting advice today. Go, the money, you can't pass up the money. Well, he let me know that it was more than just money. We didn't even talk about money except for the fact that the ABA was struggling financially. And so I wasn't really serious about leaving, but I did get information about it, and I stayed in school again, became All-American. Portland Trailblazers drafted me the sixth pick in the draft, and now, I think about it. If I were drafted sixth now, man, what a mega star I would be just before I even played a game. But back then it wasn't the same, and the same exposure as it is now, especially the draft. And I had to go prove myself. I had to go show that I belonged in the league and I belonged on the court playing.
Hey, Coach, I'm gonna have to take a short break, but I got a couple more questions I want to ask you if you can hold on for a minute. Can you
I'm
do
good.
that? Okay, we're gonna take a little short break and we'll be right back.
Entertainer. He was not just a prolific performer. He was a historic figure. He changed music as we know it. I remember when I used to speak sometime at his shows. He would always smile when I would say there were 4 B's in music: Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, and Brown. But the truth is that James Brown impacted music just like they did, because he literally changed the beat. The beat to a 1-3 from a 2-4. He taught the world to be on the one. That's why he's still the man, because every time I hear a hip-hop record on the one, that's James Brown. He's still the man. Every time I see an artist sing and get the dancing and get the movement and get those of us to begin to be demonstrative on the one, that's James Brown. He's still the man. Every time I see someone slide across the stage, someone go down in a split, someone come up with supreme and superior showmanship, that's James Brown. He's still the man. Every time an artist goes in a studio and sings for a cause bigger than themselves, that's James Brown. He's still the man. Every time we use our art and our music to lift those that are down at the bottom, to look toward the top and dream for a better day, I know that James Brown.
All right, thanks for holding in, everybody. We're Black with Coach Lionel Hollins, and I'm going to get right into it, Coach. After you became a professional in 1976, 1977, you went all of the way. And kind of tell us what that year was like and how it changed your life.
Well, it was sort of surreal. We knew we were pretty good in training camp. And, we were real young. In fact, we're still the youngest team to ever win an NBA championship. We had talent, but we had poise, we had maturity, and we had a great coach. And, Bill Walton always says that, Lenny Wilkins, who was our coach when I was a rookie, made a lot of suggestions, and nobody listened. And then when they fired him, they brought in Jack Ramsey, and they made a lot of the changes that Lenny Wilkins wanted to make. And we were able to, be a much better team with more chemistry and better camaraderie. And what it did for me, it elevated my beliefs. Because when you believe in something and you work toward it and you have success at it, it gives you more confidence to know that what I believe in is the way to go. And then you start negating a lot of the noise that's around you, telling you you need to do this or you need to do that. And it's important as you go in life as a person is to minimize the noise. But as far as playing and what have you, I learned how to play on a different level with the guys that I played with, Maurice Lucas and Walton and Bobby Gross and Herm Gilliam and, Dave Twardzik and Johnny Davis. I can go right down the line to each and every one of them. And they all were very strong individuals who were smart enough to know that we needed to all sacrifice something for the group to be successful. And we did. And we had an incredible run. It was the first time the team had ever been in the playoffs. It was an expansion team, and they were in their 7th year, and they had known nothing but losing. And all of a sudden, we rise up, and we start Blaze of Mania, which still goes on today, and Rip City, which still goes on today in Portland. And we were incredible at home. I was just talking to a friend of mine because I was doing some stuff, with the schedules and stuff when I played, and I was looking at the scores, and we beat the Sixers by 42 points. We beat a couple of teams by 40 points. And I said, well, I guess they needed to know that they had to be ready when they came to Portland to play, or they were going to get a real good butt whipping. And so we did get to the championship, and we played what arguably was the most talented team in the league at that time, in the Philadelphia 76ers, with George McGinnis, Julius Erving, Doug Collins, World B. Free. They just had a lot of exciting individual players. And we go down 2-0 in the series, and in the second game a fight breaks out. And Darryl Dawkins and Maurice Lucas get into a fight, and we were solidly behind Luke, and Darryl didn't feel like his players were solidly behind him, and he tore up the locker room when he got ejected from the game. And we got on the plane home, and we just said, they may beat us on the court, but they're not just going to come and just walk all over us. And our coach, Jack Ramsey, told us, he said, we're not changing anything. We're just going to be us, and we're going to come home and play our game. And he knew we were young, and we were trying to do too much back in Philly. I think we had 32 and 34 turnovers in 2 games. And we were, back then, we averaged around 20 turnovers a game, which now is considered high. But we also were scoring 113, 114 points a game. So, we threw it out there and threw it around a little bit. But we got home, won the next game, blew them out the next game, and then we went back to Philly, beat them, came home, won the 6th game in an exciting game where I think both teams probably played the best that they had played in the same game. And it went down to the wire, and George McGinnis misses a jump shot, and we win the game. And we were the world champions, and that whole summer was surreal, from people, just mauling you. The parade was a maul. And, we did summer camps, and we became like the Pied Pipers. We'd go around from school to school, and kids didn't just wait for us to come to their school. They started following us to every school. And, we got, so many kids. We can't even have the camp indoors, but it didn't matter. It was one of the most beautiful summer that I spent in Portland. It was 90-something degrees every day, and we just had a glorious time celebrating that year. And we became brothers, a band of one. We knew each other's weakness. I think in winning, that's what happens. In success, that's what happens. You give of yourself, and your vulnerabilities are exposed. And everybody accepts your vulnerabilities because you're seeing theirs as well. You're making sacrifices. You're holding the line. You're being tough. You cry. You hurt. And somebody's picking you up and patting you on the back and like, man, I know how you feel. I've been there. Hey, we need you. Come on, let's do this. We can do this. And you're doing the same to people that are down. And when it's all said and done, and you've done it, you look in each other's eyes, and you're as close as some of your relatives are. And I tell people all the time. I talked to Bill Walton probably about 2 weeks ago, And we had the longest conversation, and we hadn't talked in 3 or 4 months. And it's the same way when I talk to Johnny Davis or Dave Torzik or any of the guys that were on that team. When we talk, it's like family. We understand each other. We know who each and every one, and nobody has changed. I mean, we were young, but we were being who we were, and we had set the foundation for who we were going to be for the rest of our lives. Off the court, forget as players.
Now, after your sterling career, what made you become a basketball coach?
I don't know. I tell people I was a sports fanatic. I used to get in trouble in class when I was in the 5th, 6th grade, writing in my notebook plays. If I was playing football, I was writing football plays down on my notebook. If I was playing basketball, I was writing basketball plays. I knew the ins and out of everything, and it interested me. I studied football. I studied baseball. I studied basketball. I mean, I knew every player on every team in baseball. I knew their stats, and I could recite whole team starting lineups in baseball. And it was in my blood. It was my passion to be around sports. And I just, I've had a couple of coaches tell me, Chuck Daly told me that, Billy Cunningham when I was in Philly, they both thought I would be a coach. And I didn't say anything about it. I didn't think second about it. And then when I quit playing, the Arizona State job actually opened up. And I applied. No experience, no nothing. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just saw the job was open. I was like, I applied. They sent me a nice form letter back. Thank you for your interest, but no thanks. And about a week after they hired the coach that they hired, he called me and asked me if I was interested in coming down. Well, this is where my life changed, because I went down there and he wanted to hire me, but I didn't have a degree. I was a year away from graduating. And that burned me, and it actually shamed me. It made me ashamed to not have my degree. It was a stigmatism for me. And I went back to school, and he wanted me to be a graduate assistant, and they would pay for me to go to school and give me the stipend. And when I got all my classes, I had like 16 hours, and I went back and showed them to the coach, and he told me that wasn't going to work for him. He said he expected me to take 1 or 2 classes. And, I was upset, but I talked to my uncle, and my uncle told me, he says, did you just play in the NBA? And he said, yeah. He said, did you just make some money? Do you have any money left? I was like, yep. He said, well, pay your own damn way to school. He said, you don't need nobody to pay your way to school. You don't need him, period. And that's kind of how my uncle was all, he was like, hey, you don't need anybody. You can do it yourself. But I went back to him, and I asked him, I said, you're saying this isn't going to work for you. I said, but let me ask you this. If I need, 40 hours and I'm taking 6 hours a semester, I said, it's going to take me a bit of time to graduate. Are you going to guarantee me that you're going to be here that long? And I said, me being a graduate assistant for 4 years is not something that I'm looking, excited about. And so I went on to school and got my degree, and then I actually came on as a volunteer assistant later on for him. But at that point, I said, never again will somebody close a door in my face because I don't have a degree, whether it be any other job or this coaching job. And then as I was going through the process of getting my degree, I realized that I was really not as stupid as I thought I was. When I was in school, I mean, I didn't have the same interest or the same discipline or the same desire in the classroom when I was an athlete. But when I went back, it was all about school, and I got straight A's. And I always tell my wife this. I said, I had people wanting me in their study class. I had people wanting to sit next to me and copy my notes because they knew I was going to do it good. I said, that seemed like me when I was in school as an athlete. And I said the kids would be putting their arm over their papers and not wanting me to copy. So I learned that I was capable, and all I had to do was transfer all the discipline and the commitment that I had playing into another field, and I could be successful. So that was a learning experience for me. And in fact, while I was at school, I spoke to the different athletic teams regarding getting a degree and understanding about time management and discipline and the whole 9 yards. And I went on from there, and it was. I'm happy that I got it, because with the work that I do with children and young men, it's always about how are you going to tap into the American dream. And the American dream foundation is usually laid by an education. And, I believe that wholeheartedly, but, there's a lot of other obstacles out there, but you can't get in the game without the degree.
Well, Coach, I want to, a young man is on the other line right now, and you have already sold into his life. And what I'm going to do is put you on hold and let him just speak from his heart about what it has meant to him to have you speak to his father and provide some inspiration that still resonates with him. So hold on for a minute. I'm going to put New Williams on the line, okay?
New
Williams.
New Williams, okay.
Yeah, all right. Hello, New?
Yes.
All right, you've heard the coach speak. He can hear you now. What has it meant to you for him to sow into your life? He spoke extensively with your father, and I'm sure he shared that conversation with you.
Yes, it means a lot to, have a support system coming from everywhere, especially somebody like Coach here. Like, just to have people come into your life and support you and big you up is really special and really valuable to me.
Okay, and the fact that you are recovering from a knee injury, and for my listening audience, his real name is Lionel Williams, and before he got injured in his junior season at Santa Monica High School, he was one of the 50 top high school basketball players in the nation. And how's your recovery coming along so far?
It's coming along pretty well. I'm just gotta keep working every day, so I can make sure I come back better than I was before I went down.
Okay, well, I'm gonna turn the conversation back to Coach and New. Just hold on for a minute so you can hear what he's got to say as we close out this segment of the show.
Okay.
Did you lose Coach? Hey, Coach.
Hey, Bobby.
Yes. You remember a couple weeks?
We got disconnected.
I'm glad you came back. The young man that was just on the line, I had called you and asked you to speak to his father a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And
I remember.
And that has meant a lot, not only to his father and me, because I'm like extended family. This is a great young man, and you've been doing that probably for how many years now? Just sowing into young men's lives.
I can't count the amount of years, man. And since I've been in the NBA as a player. But if you can get us back together, I'll talk to him.
Oh, that's fantastic. And as we close out, I want to first of all thank you for being a friend and someone who has allowed me to profile you in my book, Real Men Don't Play. And what are your ambitions going forward at this point in your life?
Well, obviously, I'd like to get back into coaching. I'd like to get into management at some point. And have the opportunity to build a team and run a team. So, let's stay in the sport and try to make a difference. And, one of my big things now is about the incarceration of young black men in our communities at an alarming rate. Bothers me. And I've been, reading some books and learning more and more about the problem that we have and how, when our young black brothers become felons, that they're cast out of the system. They are not in mainstream America anymore because they can't vote. They can't get a job. They can't serve on juries. They can't do some of the things that normal people do. And then they're relegated to second-class citizens, and their whole life is back and forth in the system. And, whether you're on parole, whether you're on probation, it's all the same. Whether, in jail, everything is something that somebody else is controlling your life and your freedom.
Well, that's a conversation we had initially when we were at Bonnaroo together, and that's still a bucket list item for me, is to get you and the great Jim Brown on the same page, because we still got some unfinished business in Memphis. Final thoughts, Dana Davis. When I say that name, what thoughts come to your mind?
Dana Davis, a good man, a good friend, would do anything for you. You know, he would, you know, he would just go to the mat for you, and he you know, he always had my back and did stuff for me and made sure that I was taken care of, because that was the kind of person he was. He loved doing for other people. And I was just with Mitchell Anderson maybe last weekend or the weekend before, and we were talking about that. I miss Dane. I miss his laugh and his silliness, but I miss his big heart.
Right. Coach, don't be a stranger on my show, because there's so many dimensions to your personality that would be a blessing in terms of my mission, and that is to give people models of possibility and to let them know that there are some men out here who comport themselves in a way that's exemplary. So thank you so very much for coming on my show tonight, and God bless you for doing so. And again, it won't be the last time I ask you to do this.
No problem, brothers. You take care and keep doing what you're doing.
All right, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Lionel Hollins, and after this short break, we'll be right back with Eric Davis from the Cincinnati Reds, another stone soldier. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Don't do something for me. Don't take my funk away. Don't take my funk.
I need your loving each and every day. You in my heart to stay. I can't believe it. You treat me this way. Don't take my funk away. Don't take my funk away. Won't you do that for me? Don't take my funk away. Don't take my funk away. Don't you take it away. Don't take my funk away. Don't take my funk away. Don't take my funk away. Say for lady. As a child, now let's go way back to the old school. My funky groove was my survival tool. As long as I can remember, funky's always been cool. We tried to knock each other.
All right, we're black and blessed in such a very, very special way. The forces have lined up beautifully this evening. The brother that you're about to meet and greet, he just returned from training camp with the Cincinnati Reds. And one thing that you can learn about a man once he gets into a profession is, can he go back where he started? And Eric Davis started his career with the Cincinnati Reds in 1984. At the age of 21, he came into the major leagues, and I remember being a sports fan myself, reading about him. He was considered a 5-point player, which means he could do everything that could affect the game that a player could do. He could hit for power, he could run, he had a gold glove, a great arm, and just an incredible athlete. And so without any further ado, a graduate of L.A. Fremont High School, the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame, 1990 World Series champion, who retired from baseball in 2001 after a 17-year career. Everybody say hello to the great Eric Davis. Eric, how you doing this evening, man?
Man, I'm doing good. How about yourself, man? That was a great introduction. I'm going to have to kick you a few little corners.
Oh, no, everything I said was true, and that's the thing that I pride myself on with this show and with my book, Real Men Don't Play. I'm blessed to know brothers like you. And
I appreciate that. That was excellent.
And so here you are at the mid stage of your life. As you look back at your career, the mindset of a champion, what does that consist of?
Honestly, I don't really think you can define it initially, because it only comes into play after you've won a title. And I tell people this all the time: if you never won a title, then how can you speculate about how to win a title? So from that perspective, it's not one particular thing that you can say. In my estimation, that would say this is how you feel when you become a champion.
Now, you were a multi-talented athlete in high school. Kind of take us back to those days and how you ended up being a baseball player.
Well, the first sport I ever played was tennis. I took tennis lessons from Arthur Ashe when I was in elementary school.
Get out of here.
Yeah. A godmother of mine who was Jewish was my elementary school teacher, so she lived by UCLA. And so she's always take us over to her house and spend the night and show us the finer things of life as an inner city kid. And I got into playing tennis. And from tennis came basketball, to track, to football, to pretty much anything that you can formulate on your own, we did it.
Now, on that tennis thing, and this was something I didn't expect to say, do you still play?
I haven't played in a long time.
Good, because I want to play you
still
next week.
compete.
I want to play you next week, all right?
I don't know if you're going to play me next week, because I just had surgery on my neck, so you can play me in a couple, 3 weeks.
All right, just as soon as – I want you while you're disabled.
I see how you going. Hey, man.
No, we're going to look forward to that, Eric, because I love that game. I've been playing it about 40 years and got a couple trophies, so I ain't going to lie to you. I'm coming at you, man. I'm coming at you, all right?
What? Well, I ain't playing a long time, so I'm going to let you do what you do.
But let's get back to your amazing career, because at some point you had to make a decision as to which sport you was going to pursue. So what compelled you to make the decision to play baseball?
Well, it didn't. I tell people this all the time. Had I graduated from high school after basketball season, I would have went to college, because I was in that frame of mind. It just happened to be that the high school graduation happens after baseball season. Baseball season goes into June in high school, and I just finished my high school season. I was MVP of the league and, all state and all everything, and I was just in a baseball frame of mind. But I tell people this all the time. Had I graduated from high school in January, I would have went to college and played basketball. That's just how close it was for me.
At what point did you have to kind of pull back from all of the praise and acclaim that you had received? Because at one point, you were considered the best player in baseball.
I never pulled away from it. And the reason I say that I never pulled away from it is because I never really jumped on that bandwagon. I was probably the only player that in the history of South Central that was ever said that he was the second coming of Willie Mays. I don't know anybody that's ever had that accolade ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so me being 19 years old and being from South Central Los Angeles, and the first time they see me do what I do, and then they dropped the Willie Mays on me, was kind of humbling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They couldn't drop a Bobby Bonds on me, who I thought was a hell of a player, or a Frank Robinson, or somebody that I thought was a hell of a player. But they had to take me to the best player to ever play the game and put me in that category. So I never really got caught up in the things that I did, or how people looked at me as far as my talent was. I just went out and played. I'm on the phone.
Now, in 1990, it's the World Series, and you finally got into the pinnacle of your profession. And kind of walk us through how y'all became champions that year.
Well, it was one of those years where we actually had a lockout that year. the owners locked us out of spring training that year, so we only had about 2 weeks of training camp, which was great from my perspective because, the training camp is probably a month and a half too long for me, And so therefore, we got down to spring training. We didn't really have a lot of time to figure out guys who was trying to be opportunistic about making the team. We had pretty much had our team set, but we made one really good deal. We traded Johnny Franco, who was an all-star closer for us, to New York Mets for Randy Myers, who's an all-star closer. And for people who don't know, that Pete Rose was the manager of that team, and he had got suspended for gambling in August of '89. And so we hired Lou Piniella, and when Lou Piniella came in, we had 2 weeks to go. And we got down to spring training. Everybody showed up on time. We picked the lockup off, and we went into playing. I think we played 10 or 12 games, and we broke camp. And I can remember one of our pitchers saying that we were going to win our first 10 or 11 games of the season, go wire to wire, and win the World Series. And it pretty much happened that way. But outside of winning the first 11, we won our first 9 and went on to go wire to wire and win the World Series.
You made a spectacular catch in that series, and you hit a dramatic home run. As you look back at that, I know athletes tend to just do what they do, but how do you feel about having the kind of impact in a team sport that you had on that World Series?
Well, it's more gratifying after the fact because you can reflect on it. When you're in the heat of the battle, you don't have time to reflect. Me hitting the game-1 home run off of Dave Stewart, the 2-run home run in the first inning. A multitude of people said that set the stage for us to go on to win. But if Jose Rios doesn't pitch a shutout, then we probably don't win that game, and we're probably not even having this conversation. But Jose Rios pitched a phenomenal game. He shut out Oakland. We beat him 7-0. And from that point on, we knew we were going to play well. We had played a tremendous series against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and who was kind of like our mirror. They had the same kind of team we had with speed and power. They had Cy Young Award winners. They had MVP candidates, and we had the same thing. And so when we beat them in 6 games, we knew we were going to play well because we had faced a lot of the Oakland pitchers had already been in the National League. And so we had faced a lot of those guys, and we were very familiar with them. So therefore, we wasn't intimidated at all.
So we're going to take a short break, Eric, so please hold on. We'll be back in about 60 seconds. All right, we're back with the great Eric Davis, who is a better man than he was an athlete. Eric, what are you doing with your life now, and how has being a champion assisted you on this part of your journey through life?
Well, at the present time, I'm the special assistant to the general manager of the Cincinnati Reds. This will be my 6th year on the executive side of baseball. I got into the executive side actually 6 years ago to try to make a difference in a lot of our black kids playing and just offer my knowledge and tutelage and the things that I've learned over 20-some-odd years in professional baseball. So but between that and doing my speaking engagements, it keeps me very busy.
So what are some of your other ambitions outside of working with the Cincinnati Reds and your public speaking gigs?
Well, ultimately, I want to be a general manager. I want to build my own team. I don't have the money to own my team, but hopefully one of these days something might fall out the sky and I can buy me a club and put my own little club together. But I definitely like to be a general manager where I can put my best foot forward and utilize the knowledge and experience that I have over playing this great game for such a long time, and develop a system where that I can make someone a winning franchise for a long time.
Now, as you look back at your incredible career, who were some of the influences that helped you become a better man and a better athlete?
Oh, my goodness, that goes, it starts with my dad. I mean, he worked 3 jobs in order to give us the things that we needed, not what we wanted. So,
what coaches or fellow athletes inspired you?
And to have my father in the household was tremendous. And then once my playing career started to escalate, guys like Willie Stargell, Dave Parker, Concepcion. I had a chance to play with some of the greatest players of all time. I played with and for Pete Rose. I played for some of the greatest managers of all time, in Tony La Russa, Tommy Lasorda, Sparky Anderson. I played for Davey Johnson. I played for Dusty Baker. So it was a lot of influential people. Andre Dawson, who I wanted to be like when I first came up, because he was the center fielder that was batting fourth and stealing bases and hitting home runs and stuff like that. So, but at the time that I came up, all the black players were your mentors. Whichever team you were playing against, and you was a young black player, that mentorship was done in a subliminal way, but it was still there because, you couldn't just help another guy on another team while you was trying to beat him.
Right.
But the Ozzie Smiths and the Leon Durhams and Lee Smiths and those guys from different teams, all the black players kind of hung together and kind of mentored us as a whole and stuff. So it was so many different people that was very influential.
Wow. And I remember all of the cats that you just mentioned, and I forgot how long you played and how many of these people you actually interacted with on different levels as a competitor, as you just said,
right,
and then in other capacities.
Mm-hmm.
What is the prospects of black in baseball on the field, as far as what are we going to do to get young black kids back in the game, American black kids?
Well, the first thing happens is as a black man, we failed as a whole. And the reason I say that is because baseball is a sport that has to be introduced to you from a male figure. And as a black man, we failed because we've let our young black men down with a lot of extracurricular activities and things that we partaked in, and that didn't allow us to be the leaders of our household in a constructive way to lead our young black men. And until we put a financial package together for Major League Baseball, it's going to continue to die.
Eric, that last statement is the reason I got to have you back on my show, because another dimension of what I'm doing with this show is showing that brothers like yourself, people may know you for your athletic exploits, but there's a real deep brother on the other end of this phone, man, and I've had some conversations with you that I'd like to share more broadly with my listening audience. And I thank you for taking the time out this evening to participate in my show. And believe me, man, I want you to actually be able to come in the studio.
Can I just comment on one thing that you said earlier? It was a question that you asked me about what does it take to be a champion?
Yes.
I think, and this is for all ages. I think we've gotten away from preparation. I think we've gotten away from how we're being taught to play sports in general, not just baseball, but basketball and football. I think we've gotten away from the competitive side of the competition. As you see kids today that have gone to prep schools because for whatever reason, whether it's a situation where their grades are not there, but 9 times out of 10 is not that. It's just to prolong their high school career where they can get more notoriety, where they can dominate, and different things of that nature. I think we've put far too much emphasis on winning than we have the development stages of our society. And sports plays a huge factor in that. And when the only thing that you talk about is winning, you know how lucky you have to be to win. So many things have to fall into place for you to win at any level, whether it's high school, Pop Warner, minor leagues, major, whatever it is. So much has to fall into place. And as long as we continue to celebrate certain people, that it's a necessity for them to win, then we're going to lose the fact that how important playing the game is and really understanding how to play this game more so than just winning.
Man, that's a show in and of itself, brother. And I'm glad that you imparted that last shot right there because, again, it made me think about the process of becoming a champion on and off the field. Mm-hmm. And, again, Eric, I really appreciate you standing with me tonight, man. And we're going to revisit the dimensions of Eric Davis far beyond the field. And, again, thanks so much for being on the show tonight, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. My final thoughts for this evening, the mindset of a champion. As you've heard from two men that have left indelible footprints in their various professions, and as you've seen this evening, they also have a mindset that allows them to live exemplary lives. So I want to thank everybody for listening in tonight. And for more information about people like Lionel Hollins, please go to my website, www.realmendon'tplay. You can purchase my book in the electronic form at Amazon or iTunes. And after the 16th of February, I'm going to have